Today, Bullish, the crypto company run by a former NYSE president, buys CoinDesk. MasterCard partners with an AI company to track down crypto fraud. And Chris Janczewski of blockchain intelligence company TRM Labs breaks down which crypto crimes were most popular in 2023. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Kate Rooney. Digital currency prices rising to start this week, with Bitcoin jumping back above $37,000 by noon Eastern. It was around the $35,000 level on Friday. Ether was at $1,900 at the end of last week, but now it is back above $2,000. And the World token, the cryptocurrency issued by the Sam Altman-backed identity platform WorldCoin, swung wildly all weekend after Altman was ousted from his CEO role at OpenAI. This morning, WorldCoin traded at $2.31, down around 5.5% from the day before, according to data from CoinMarketCap. Let's talk about some of the top stories. A crypto company run by the former New York Stock Exchange president Tom Farley just bought CoinDesk. Bullish took to X this morning to announce it acquired the crypto-focused news outlet from Digital Currency Group, or DCG as it's also known. Bullish noted that CoinDesk will operate as an independent subsidiary and retain editorial independence. Bullish added that its plans to invest in CoinDesk's global expansion and the growth of the company. In a statement, Farley, who is now the CEO of Bullish, wrote, quote, "With its acclaimed editorial coverage, premier events, and market-leading data and indices, CoinDesk continues to shape the global crypto and blockchain ecosystem." He added that Bullish will immediately inject capital into several of CoinDesk's growth initiatives, which will help the launch of new services, events, and products. The Wall Street Journal reported that Bullish bought 100% of CoinDesk in an all-cash deal. Financial terms of the deal were not disclosed. DCG, which is the parent company of CoinDesk, reportedly acquired that company in 2016 for $500,000. Now, the Wall Street Journal reported earlier this month that Bullish is also one of three firms trying to buy what's left of FTX. The winner could relaunch the exchange after its expected exit from bankruptcy next year. Next, Fidelity is joining the race for a spot Ether ETF. CBOE Markets filed a proposal with the SEC on Friday, which would launch the Fidelity Ethereum Fund. The move follows BlackRock's own proposed spot Ether ETF, which it put before the SEC in an S1 last week. Both firms are also waiting to hear whether they're going to get the green light for a spot Bitcoin ETF. The SEC just delayed a decision on Franklin Templeton and Global X spot ETF proposals until next year. Last up, MasterCard is turning to AI to tamp down on crypto fraud schemes. The payments giant told CNBC exclusively that it's partnering with FeedZai, a platform that aims to combat money laundering and financial crimes using artificial intelligence. FeedZai will work alongside MasterCard's CipherTrace Armada platform, which helps banks monitor transactions from more than 6,000 crypto exchanges to check for fraud, money laundering, and more. FeedZai says around 40% of scam transactions exit directly from a bank account to a crypto exchange. The company's CEO also told CNBC that the new partnership will, quote, increase fraud detection by protecting unwary customers, but will also detect potential money laundering activity and mule accounts, which are accounts that scammers use to launder stolen funds. All right, let's stick with fraud for our main story. Crypto World's Jordan Smith spoke with Chris Janczewski, the head of global investigations for TRM Labs. The two discussed the most popular scams for 2023 and how the firm is helping law enforcement crack down on crypto criminals.
So as we head into the end of the year, I'm calling on you to check in on the state of crypto crime. TRM reported around $9 billion was sent to fraud schemes in 2022. And over Chainalysis, they reported that crypto crime was down about 65% at the mid-year mark this year. But now that we're closing out 2023, what's TRM seeing in terms of how active crypto criminals are? And importantly, are the size of the crimes that do still happen, are those still getting bigger?
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. I appreciate being here today. We do still see, I think, an increase in some specific crimes continue to grow, but we're also seeing kind of a grow in the scope of different types of crimes that are being impacted by crypto. And also we're seeing that the growth of crypto from not just focused on Bitcoin, but it branching out to multiple different change. I think the biggest change that we've seen is the shift from Bitcoin centric to Tron and the stablecoin on Tron for a handful of reasons. And we'll anticipate that'll probably continue to grow within the next year.
Yeah, one of the things I'm curious about is I think in 2021 and 2022, so many new investors were getting into crypto that it may have seemed easier to maybe get somebody to buy into a particular scam or fraud. Now that the crypto market's sort of dried up and only the biggest enthusiasts are still sort of in the market and really paying attention, has it become harder to convince people to buy into these scams, or is it getting easier as people are looking for ways to make money?
I think one of the drivers is still just that fear of missing out, that FOMO. There are the real stories of people that were early adopters of Bitcoin and just became millionaires not soon after. And so when this new coin comes out, this new token, we've seen it time and time again. People kind of like, yeah, I know, maybe I shouldn't, but just what if it is? What if, this few $1,000s or whatever turns into just a high rate of return? And unfortunately, the kind of growth in pig butchering has really fueled the scam market. So maybe it's somebody that like didn't necessarily look and seek out cryptocurrency as an investment, but they were approached unsolicited, kind of got in this relationship, put a little bit of money in. They saw these kind of fake returns and thought like, wow, I'm getting 100% return for a very short period of time. Maybe I should just dump in more money. And unfortunately, it just keeps going. So then they think they have this money. They want to try and get it out. We see the perpetrators say, yeah, you can get it out. You just need to pay the taxes up front. And so then they may like borrow money against something else and try as a last ditch effort to pay the taxes to get back those false returns. And we see that growing over and over again, which is really unfortunate because, this is impacting real people's lives.
Yeah, we've seen a bunch of high-profile fraud cases this year, and you mentioned pig butchering. TRM actually helped the DOJ stop a $112 million crypto scam focused on pig butchering. Can you first explain what pig butchering is, what that entails for people who are unfamiliar, and also talk to me about what the dialogue is like with law enforcement, and are they becoming more savvy in dealing with these crimes as you help them?
Yeah, pig butchering is a pretty unique name, and it goes to kind of the thought process of that if you were raising pigs, you wouldn't butcher them very early in their life. You would kind of fatten them up and go for the long haul and get the most return that you can out of them. And that's kind of the approach they take in these scams. They approach people, and maybe right up front, they don't ask for money. But then as they build trust, build this relationship, and then, oh, by the way, I'm invested in this, whatever, or I can get you a return, but because we're friends, I'll get you in. I don't normally get everybody else in. And then kind of get the most out of them that they can. The downside for these cases is that it impacts so many people and they can become pretty complex pretty quickly. So at TRM Labs, what we try to do is help our law enforcement partners unpack that complexity. So it might be somebody in the impact of that local law enforcement is investigating, and maybe they lost $200,000, which is substantial, but in the grand scheme of all the massive scams that are going on is maybe not that substantial. But very quickly, we will see that often it touches on other victims across the globe who are losing other substantial amounts of money. And then we see that what was maybe a $200,000 scam quickly becomes a multi-million-dollar scam, like we saw with the Department of Justice and their seizure for over $100 million. I think law enforcement is very much aware of the problem. You see agencies like FBI, Secret Service really focused on trying to make an impact in this threat. We see the REACT task force out of California, backed by Aaron West, that's focused from a state and local approach to try and help victims. And I think what the encouraging thing is that the leaders of these agencies see this as like a long-term investment. And so they're investing in working with companies like TRM, trying to get the public-private partnerships to try and see if we can work on these threats together. But I think another thing that's inspiring too is that US law enforcement is also looking to build up partners around the world. We saw recently that like Secret Service was in Ukraine, IRS as well, trying to build up foreign law enforcement so they can also try and combat this threat together. I think another thing that's unique about crypto that makes it better to try and tackle these threats is that websites like Chain Abuse, where normal people like you and I can go and submit our stories and hopefully prevent other people from investing and losing out, but also law enforcement can take that information to build up their case, identify more victims that might be outside their jurisdiction that they originally were not aware of, and try and put together these bigger cases that can hopefully result in hundreds of millions of dollars of seizures like the DOJ recently did.
Turning ahead to 2024, we're starting to see more activity in the crypto market thanks to excitement for ETFs or hopes that the worst of the crypto winter is sort of behind us. Investor interest is perhaps picking up for next year. So knowing that, is TRM expecting crime to pick back up in 2024, or what are the trends that you're watching right now?
Yeah, it's hard to say, kind of predict, but I think that one thing we found is that criminals, illicit actors, they can be pretty resourceful and they can adapt over time. We've seen it recently with like Hamas with their fundraising campaign, where initially they had an account at a US-based exchange and they pivoted to an unhosted address. And then just recently this year, they said they were no longer going to accept Bitcoin because they thought it was too dangerous for their donors. Does that mean that they would stop soliciting for donations? Probably not, no. But it's interesting to kind of watch this flow. So we do expect it to kind of stick around. We do see more and more kind of like crimes touching on it, such as like kidnappings or potential other violent crimes. But again, I think that the silver lining is, if not for a public trail to follow, that a lot of these crimes might otherwise go without some type of resolution.
All right, that's it for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow with a lot more. We'll see you then.